Hi everyone, it's Laura here, and in today's video I'm going to share with you the setup for the month of April in my Canvo bullet journal. I shared more about the Canvo system in previous videos here on my channel, and I will have links to those in the description box down below. For my April monthly setup, I will be mostly using products from the Club Canvo subscription kit. If you subscribe to the kit, you will get the smaller stamp set with the month of April written in 3 different styles. You will find this other 6x4 stamp set. This is called Find Joy, and it has lots of fun images, and you will see how I will use them in my bullet journal setup. And you will also get the weekly 3 stencil that I will use to create my weekly spreads. You can also buy these products separately, but if you subscribe to the kit, you will get them for a discounted price. My bullet journal is the Doodle Garden Canvo journal. There are different styles and different colors. I liked this one because of the motivational quote that it has in the front. For my bullet journal, I decided not to have a cover page for April, but to go straight for my monthly overview. I like to have a month on 2 pages type of layout, and I'm using the half calendar stencil to block in my calendar. I'm going in first with a pencil so that I'm sure that I don't make any mistakes. Actually, I did, and I had to tape 2 pages together, so this is my second attempt at my monthly overview. I just wasn't paying enough attention. But anyway, once I have penciled everything in and made sure that I have my dates right, I can go ahead and basically go over my lines with a fine liner. The pens that I'm using are by Spectrum Noir. They are sold in packs, and this one is a 0.5 in terms of size. I like to use different sizes for different elements on my pages so that I have a little bit of visual variation and a little bit more interest on my spreads. The ruler that I'm using was included in a toolkit when I bought my silhouette portrait machine, and I will have a link to all the supplies that I used in the description box down below in case you're interested. You can also use directly the calendar stencil and go straight with your fine liners, but I prefer to pencil everything in so that if I make a mistake I can correct it before committing with my fine liners. To add a little bit of decoration, I'm using my Crayola markers. These are super inexpensive, they don't bleed through, and there is quite a good range of colors. I'm using a pink one, and I'm basically creating some lines on top of my calendar, and there is where I will stamp the days of the week. For the days of the week, I'm using the Bullet Journal Basics stamp set. This has a shortened version of the names, and the size is perfect to fit on top of your monthly overviews. I'm stamping them with an acrylic block and Midnight Ink by Catherine Puller Designs. I will also be stamping the word April at the top of my spread, and I used the largest stamp in the April stamp set by Catherine Puller Designs. As I said, this is part of the subscription kit for the Club Canvo, but can also be purchased separately. I then decorated my spread with some little flowers. The ink that I'm using is Tiara by Catherine Puller Designs, and the flower is the smaller one in the Find Joy stamp set. I also used the frog, the flowers, and the little label stamps to further decorate my spread. The label stamps was used to create a section for some notes, and then using my Crayola markers I colored the images. I also wrote in the numbers of the days of the month, and then I'm using the small and the large flower again in the Find Joy stamp set to create a little bit of a background for the month of April. I'm using a light gray marker to underline every other line in the notes section so that it gives me a little bit of a visual guidance, and it makes the whole thing look a little bit tidier once I fill it in. And then I kept decorating the spread. I first stamped the sentiment "Today choose happy" because I thought it was a nice motivational quote. I decorated it again with those small flowers, and then I also added this letter with the flowers on top of my notes section. I used again my Crayola markers to color the flowers, and that's my monthly overview. Next, I moved on to my tracker pages, and I am creating a tracker for my social media posts using the Circle Tracker and Banner Stencil by Catherine Puller Designs. This is very handy when it comes to creating circular trackers. They look really cool, but they can be a little bit tricky to create. The great thing about this stencil is that it will not only help you create the perfect circles every time, you also have some little guides so that you can divide your circles and split them in sections according to how many days that particular month has. I'm using again my Spectrum Noir fine liner number 5 to create the circle tracker, and here you can see what I meant with those little guidelines. I first penciled everything in and I divided my circle in 30 days, plus I have some space left where I will write whatever I'm tracking. In this case, as I mentioned, it will be my social media posts, so I will write down Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, blog. And by the way, if you are interested in following me on social media, I will have links in the description box down below. I would love for you to connect with me there as well. All around the circle and right above each section, I'm going to write a number for each day of the month, and then I can either cross or put a little dot or color them in each section whenever I have a post. I think I will just write a number because sometimes I have multiple posts per day so that I can track everything as accurately as possible. I'm using that same light gray marker. This is a Marvi Ukida marker to again color in every other circle so that I have that visual guidance and things look a little bit cleaner. And then I'm also going to mark the days of the weekend, so Saturdays and Sundays, with a yellow Crayola marker. The little frog in the Find Joy stamp set was so cute that it had to make its appearance on this spread as well, so I stamped it in the center of the circle and I colored it with a green marker. For this lower section, I used another stamp in the Find Joy stamp set in the April Club Canvo subscription kit, and this will be where I am basically tracking the followers that I have on social media. And it's not so much because I am trying to obsess about numbers or anything like that, it's just to see how much content I create and whether you guys actually enjoy this content, so if there is a result in terms of how many people find out about me on the different social media platforms. So I have these little flowers, and then next to them I will write the name of the social media platform, and the columns after that are the weeks in the month. So at the beginning of each week I'm going to write down how many followers I have, and then at the end of the month I'll see how things went. I'm using again this little label stamp to create labels, and there I will write posts and followers, so I will just put down the names of my trackers. Talking about trackers, in the past I have tracked a lot of different things in my bullet journals, or I should say I created a lot of trackers for a lot of different things. So I was tracking whether I was drinking enough water, whether I was exercising, whether I was leaving the house because I work from home. So, you have to be aware of how much time you're spending inside your house and how little you actually go out. Medicines, eating fruit, a lot of things, and it became really overwhelming. So for this bullet journal spread, or for this setup I should say, I decided to keep it quite simple, and I will just be tracking my mood and my productivity. So I am creating 2 small calendars on my next page, again with my fine liners, and decorating them with my Crayola markers, and I will use these to just track my mood and my productivity. I don't want to say that habit trackers do not work. Actually, they were a good way for me to be a little bit more aware of myself and my habits, but I kind of moved away from them, and I want to get back to that a little bit more slowly. Otherwise, what I will be doing is I will try to build all the habits back at once, and it just will not work for me. Anyway, I have a little key at the side of my page, and I will be stamping flowers in different colors in my calendars, depending on whether the mood and the productivities were good, average, or bad. I used more of those flowers to decorate the corners of my spread, and this is my tracker spread. For my next page, I'm creating some rectangles with rounded corners using the On My List stencil by Catherine Puller Designs. This stencil is really handy and I have used it a lot in my bullet journal setup. If you haven't watched the video, just a little reminder that it's linked in the description box down below in case you want to check it out. Coming back to the page, here is where I will have my to-do list and also a section for ideas, whether it's for my channel or my blog or really anything that comes to mind. This is where I will have them. I used again this label stamp to create a space where I'll have the title of the sections, and then I'm going to use more stamps in the Find Joy stamp set to decorate the spread. I really like this stamp, Find Joy in the Ordinary, and I think it's a great reminder at any time, but especially in times like this one. And by the way, I hope you guys are all okay and keeping safe. I am writing the titles of the sections. As I said, I have to-dos and writing the title. And then I decided that this spread was a little too much focused on productivity and to-dos and things like that, boring stuff. So I decided that I wanted a small section for a wish list at the top, just for a little bit of joy. Not too big because otherwise that's, counterproductive for budgeting purposes, but a little bit of space for happy things in this spread. I sort of mirrored that smaller rectangle that I have at the top also on the bottom of my page, mostly for designing purposes, and that's actually not a space that I will use for planning. It's something that I will just decorate again with that cute little frog and more stamps from the Find Joy stamp set. I did really enjoy using stamps to create my spread, and I like that everything is so cohesive and you have similar, or rather you use the same stamps right on different spreads, but by combining them in a different way you have a fresh look, but everything is still connected with everything else. So I think this is really fun to do. I kept going and I kept decorating the page, adding some more color with my Crayola markers as well as with my gray marker that I used to underline every other line in my to-do and ideas section. And then I decided to create a drop shadow effect, but instead of using a black pen, I'm using a pink marker to bring in even more color and make the spread look even more fun. I'm using the On The List stencil to create my drop shadows so that they are nice and neat and they match perfectly the boxes that I created before. And for even more color variation, for the top and the bottom boxes, I used a yellow marker instead. This next page is quite specific to what I do because here is where I track all my social media posts and the progress I have made for them. I will show you exactly what each column is in a moment. I just wanted to say that even if you don't do a lot of social media, if you don't do design team work, so this may seem uninteresting to you, I think you can use it as an inspiration, for example, for your cleaning spreads or cleaning tables. So on the right side of my table is where I will basically track whether I have shared my posts on the various social media platforms. The first column will be the name of the post or the content that I'm creating, and then I have columns where I track whether I have completed the project, taken pictures, written a blog post, recorded a video, created pictures for Pinterest, and if I'm not mistaken, I have a column also for my thumbnails, so that as I go along and I make progress creating my content, I can track it on my spreads and I don't have to wonder what I still have left to do for a specific assignment. When you are dealing with large tables like this, I have found that it can be a little bit hard to read them once you start to fill them in and distinguish one line from the other. And this is why, especially for something like this, I like to go in with a light marker. In this case, it's a light gray marker, and underline every other line, because this increases readability in my opinion. The last step is to write the titles of each section, and as I mentioned already, I have the project name, the due date, which is a very important thing to remember, and then all the tasks that are related to the project and whether I have already shared it on social media. Do let me know in the comment section down below if you are, for example, part of a design team and which one, or what are your ideas to sort of adapt a table like this to something that is maybe more relevant to you. I'm curious to know. I again added a little bit of color to this spread by creating a drop shadow with a yellow marker, and then I moved on and I created my first weekly spread. My favorite layout for weekly spreads is a week on 2 pages with vertical boxes. I find they optimize the space quite a lot. I used the weekly 3 stencil and a pencil to draw my layout, and then I went in with my fine liner and my ruler and inked up all the lines. I have 3 days on the left spread, and then on the second one I will have 4 days, and the way in which I did that is by splitting the last column in 2, because those will be Saturday and Sunday, and hopefully weekends are a little bit more free so you don't have to write quite as much in there. I also have a larger box on the top of my right page, and this is where I will write my notes. I like to have a section there for my weekly to-dos, so I will go back and forth between monthly, yearly and weekly to-dos so that I keep track of everything, and this has worked pretty well for me so far. To complete my weekly calendar, I stamped some flowers using Tiara ink for the business days and then Tiki Torch for Saturday and Sunday. I'm stamping the days of the week. The stamp is part of the Bullet Journal Basic Stamp Set by Catherine Puller Designs. Again, for the notes section, I have a little label where I will write down notes, and I also decorated that with another of the stamps in the Fine Joy stamp set. I'm going again to use my Crayola markers in pink, yellow and green to add a little bit of color to several elements in my spread, and I really like this color palette. It's really springy and fresh and it makes me happy to look at. To create some more visual interest, I decided to add some drop shadows to my boxes, and that basically means that I am thickening the lines on the left and the lower portion of each box. Next, I wrote down the days of the month, so the numbers basically, and I also included the 30th and the 31st of March because I always like to have the full week on a spread. So whenever a month doesn't begin on a Monday, I always have however many days are left from the previous month on the first weekly spread of the current month. I hope that makes sense. I like to have a small monthly calendar on each of my weekly spreads, and I'm creating it using the calendar and boxes stencil. And then I like to basically underline the current week so that I know in which part of the month we are at. It gives me more of a visual to organize my time and figure out how much time I have left before all the deadlines basically. The hexagon pattern in the On My List stencil was just perfect in terms of sizes and design for my spring-inspired spread, so I blended some Tiara ink through the stencil, and then I stamped some of the bees from the Fine Joy stamp set around the beehive and also around the letter on the right side of the spread. And here's a quick flip through of my April bullet journal setup. I really love the way it turned out. It really makes me happy with all these bright colors and the fun designs, and I think that it's really great that we can incorporate supplies and techniques that we use in card making also in our bullet journals. And that's it for today. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe for more inspiration. Thank you all so much for stopping by and have a great day.